My talk today is not just about exposing content in the sense of making full text available on non-publisher sites, but also about exposing content in the sense of structured metadata. The two are actually much more integrated, intertwined today than they may once have been. Exposing structured metadata has significant consequences, and I don't believe that all of them are necessarily beneficial for a publisher, even if it is inevitable that metadata must be exposed. Next. Is it not advancing? Okay, so I'm going to provide some context for my thoughts on this topic by showing the interplay of publishing policies with the transition from simple indexing functions to the so-called discovery services that accompanies a simultaneous shift in focus from pure content to contextual relationships and functionality that go with that content. Changes in the library world have some parallels to the changes engendered in the shift from print to electronic media for publishers. And then I'll talk a little bit about one service, a new service that ACM has released to expose our content in a new way. And I'll end up with a little summary of risks and benefits. I should warn you that my usual PowerPoint presentations look very much like this page. A bulleted outline was really all I knew how to do with this tool, but I recently had some training, so I'm warning you, you're going to have to suffer through some very amateurish visuals, I think. Okay, so next. So in the early 90s, publishers started moving full-text content online. ACM's Digital Library was born in 1995. And it was released as a product 2 years later. So discovery tools were at first very simple indexes. And the objective of an index, an indexing service, is to help you locate what you want and then to pass you through to the content as efficiently as possible. In the mid-90s, copyright policy began adapting to cyberspace. And in 1995, ACM published a landmark policy delineating how traditional policy and practice would apply in the digital medium. And in particular, the provisions in that policy for author postings of content have become standard across the industry today. With some minor variations in what version of the full text is allowed to be posted. Next. So now, the index potentially lets you discover more than one content source for the item that you want. And you can choose which one to follow. So being indexed does drive traffic to you, but it also begins to split up that traffic. Next. So note that these posting policies, at least in ACM's case, precede the rise of the mother of all the great indexes in the sky. The policy's initial intent reflected the common researcher practice of immediate informal sharing of work with colleagues, which was particularly useful at a time when the time to publication could be measured in years. So, but the postings now, with the advent of these web-based indexes, potentiate the indexing of multiple sources for the same content. So perhaps what is still more important as a consequence of this is that they now make it imperative that your site appear in the index. Because if you're left out, your content is still there. but the pointers are going elsewhere. But a simple index does not really hold the user on the site for very long. In fact, the better the index, the faster the handoff to the content source. So the index then began to develop as a value-adding discovery service that will hold you on the that discovery service provider's site for longer and longer periods of time. So the purpose of the discovery service is no longer just to locate the object and pass the user along to it, but to create enough stickiness in that discovery service site to become a destination for exploration in itself. So here's a discovery service. If you could, there's a link out. It might be better if you could show it live, if it will pop out. No? Just hit the link, the discovery services. Yeah. So this is Microsoft's academic search, and this is Anil Jain, a very famous computer scientist. So look what's happened to the old index that points towards the source of the content. So there's a wealth of information on this page. You could spend hours, literally, exploring the information on this page and all the relationships that it surfaces about this particular computer scientist. It shows him and all his colleagues. It shows his areas of expertise. Interests? Yes, there you go. It shows his affiliation, where he's working. It shows his complete bibliography down below with sort options. It shows impact metrics for his contributions to the field. It shows the proceedings in the journals that he's published in or chaired, been associated with. It has citing works for all the works that he's published, and it has linked references down at the bottom. So if you go to the very first one and you look at this, so suppose you're interested in this article that's now being discovered for you. If you click on this article, you think you might go to the source, but no, you're still on Microsoft's academic search, right? So you're spending time there now. You're looking at the abstract. This is another thing, and in fact, there is a DOI presented on this page, which will take you out. You don't have to go there to the actual source. But it was there immediately, but instead of going to it, you came to another point. And the same is true if you go and look at references. You hit the reference, instead of going out to the reference, you go first to the discovery site's presentation of that reference and the information it has about it. So you get the point. Okay. So meanwhile, you can go back to the slide. The original target content is still out there somewhere hanging around. It and its metadata were very useful in building this index and this discovery service. And there may be some users who have not been sidetracked by all this information who actually do trickle through and visit your site and look at your content. Okay, next. So what is the publisher good for in this scenario here? Well, we're good in providing data for which the discovery service has been built, but also remember all the policy changes that have multiple postings and multiple copies out there of the content in the world. So maybe if you didn't allow yourself to you aren't open to indexing, maybe the discovery service could still index everything, from these other sources, the author homepages, the institutional repositories. If that were to happen, eventually, I think the publisher would fold. And then how will all of these posted articles that are now indexed in this discovery service so beautifully, how would they get vetted? And so somewhere the functionality that a publisher performs will have to get reinvented. Otherwise, this scenario I don't think can last over time. Next. So, but there's more to this tale. Back on the home front, the publishers are not just content providers, as we just saw, very innovative, creative work. When we went online, we began to make use of the medium to build different views of the content ourselves, to extract and manipulate data, and to surface interesting relationships about the content for presentation to the user. Next. So here is an ACM author profile page for Barbara Liskoff, who was the 2008 winner of the prestigious ACM Touring Award. If you can click on that to bring it up live. Cool. Yeah. So does this look at all familiar? I mean, similar data sets are being indexed, and similar relationships and metrics are being surfaced. Note that there's an affiliation history for her. Note that there's an ability to sort all of her bibliography on citation count, for example. The sort key, yes, if you click on that. So you could go down to citation count, and you could get look at all of her works and click on, yeah, go ahead. Get all of her works in terms of the ones that seem to have the most impact on her colleagues in the way that they're measured by citation. And you can do a similar thing with downloads from the user perspective as a metric. And also, if you go over to the left and you see advisor only, you can take a look at all of her graduated doctoral students, which go ahead, click on the advisor. Yeah. Okay. So you can see these are her graduate students that received, where she was the advisor for their thesis. Those are all their theses. There are links there to all of their own profile pages and so on. Okay. So we can go back now. So to the next. Yeah, and you could go after that link also. So as a publisher, ACM also constructs aggregated views out of this same publishing database. And here is Barbara Liskoff's institutional profile page. That is for MIT, if it will come up. Yes. Okay. So you can, in addition to a tag cloud display of major research areas that MIT computer science faculty have published in, there's a complete publication archive, and there's a bibliometric profile up on the top right, which shows about 10,000 articles that have been published by MIT faculty since 1951 in computer science. Those can actually, there's a little, yes, you could flip that and take a look at their percentile rankings, which we don't display first because some people are sensitive about them, showing how they compare to other institutions in computer science. And then there's a weighted list, don't go to it, of all the authors from MIT. That's the second tab over, don't bother. But there's one particular relationship, which is collaborative institutions, which is a very interesting relationship that was revealed when we actually put this data together. And I have not found it anywhere else. And I've shown it to a number of universities, and they are they don't have this information. And they're very interested because it shows that, for example, in the case of MIT, authors from IBM have collaborated most frequently with MIT authors. And then it shows you all the other institutions in the order of their collaborations with MIT. It's a very interesting list. I don't know what they'll use it for, but there it is. Okay, next. Yeah, get out of that and we can go to the next one. So just very briefly, there's a similar kind of development that goes on inside libraries who are also have faced a danger of disintermediation in the digital world in moving from print to licensing digital media. And I want to focus for just a second on the meta search versus federated search. So these terms are sometimes used interchangeably, but they are distinguished in a very useful way. So a meta search tool reformats a single user query in the different syntaxes that are needed for each of the target systems that are going to be searched. And then it gathers back the results in a normalized structure, dedupes them if it's good, and presents that collection to the user. But this type of search is often not very sophisticated. But federated search pre-compiles a unified index from the target sources. And then all the searches are run against that unified index. And of course, big web search engines work this way. They couldn't possibly query the web in real time anyway. So in order for a publisher to support federated searching in libraries, the publisher needs to supply their metadata at the very least for local hosting in order to be part of that federated index. ACM does this, and we actually include extracted text file, plain text files, along with the metadata to enrich that local federated index. So a question naturally arises when you look at all of this, which is, why are we investing in our own platforms when discovery services and library platforms are also being heavily invested in and developing very nicely, and doing a lot of the same sorts of things? So why don't we just plain deliver the content and let all these other things do the discovery, and all these nice functionalities and additional services? So we asked this question to our ACM Library Advisory Board, because we were curious. And they did say that they felt that they weren't talking about the web discovery service, but in terms of their own platform developments and their library portals, they did feel that it was important for both things to be developed and enhanced, because they see their own user groups having different needs. And so they feel that some usually more expert discipline-specific searchers, they're likely to go straight to their favorite source and work off that platform rather than go through the integrated library portal. So that was at least somewhat encouraging. We're not wasting all this money investing. So if you now look at this picture and you add the author homepage postings, and you add in all the institutional repository postings of your content into this picture. And by the way, I think that the time is not all that far away when institutional repositories will be very interoperable with each other. So don't think that all of this stuff is split up in institutional silos, repository silos. So this, if you have a subscription model, this particular scenario just can't be, you can't sustain subscriptions with this. Okay, thanks. So the only way that this picture could work in the long run and sustain itself is if publications are published up front. There are no subscriptions. Okay? So gold open access is actually required for this particular scenario to work. And there are lots and lots of forces that are driving in this direction. So I would say that open access, at least as an ideology, is winning the day. And I think as an ideology, I just can't say that it's not winning. In reality, though, the majority of content that is accessed and downloaded is, in fact, by subscription. So there really is a kind of disconnect between what's happening and the ideology that is prevalent in the world today, I think. But assuming that it wins out and there is this whole new model imposed on the world, I can imagine that 30 or 40 years from now, when the costs of open access publishing are starting to crush the research-intensive institutions, somebody is going to come up with a brilliant idea. Hey, why don't we charge subscriptions? So we can spread the costs out more fairly around the population of users around the world. Okay, thanks. So I was asked to touch on the ACM Authorizer service as the most recent way that ACM exposes its content. And basically, very briefly, ACM publishes in what we like to call a fair access model. And it allows us to have subscription revenue by reserving exclusive rights to the collection of the titles that we publish, while ensuring through author self-archiving rights that all ACM articles are individually available freely on the web for anyone who cannot afford even our very low subscription prices. So, in fact, I put it out as a challenge. Look for the last 5 years. I don't think you can find an ACM article that is not freely available. I've looked. I can't find it. So, these posting rights are working to make a free access point available for them. Okay. So, how does this next. Yeah. So how does the authorizer service work? Basically, an author can place a link on their own bibliographic homepage, which they usually maintain at their institution. This link allows visitors to their homepage to download the version of record from the ACM Digital Library for free. And at the same time, the service also enables the author to display on their bibliographic homepage all the download and citation statistics from the ACM Digital Library on their page. So all you need to use this service is a free account at ACM, a free web account, and an ACM author profile, which is automatically generated once you publish an article that we've captured in our database. So there's no need to be a digital library subscriber. There's no need to be an ACM member. And in fact, there's no need to publish in an ACM title in order to have a profile page, because ACM indexes all of the major computer science publications. And if you're indexed, you get a profile page. So, next. So you go to ACM, you create a free web account, you edit your author page. Next. And once you edit your author page, you become its owner. And the authorizer service appears to you. If you can just point at that, click it. You should get. No, I don't mean to go out. I'm just talking about point at. Okay. So you see this authorizer service here. This is not an ACM article. This one is. You see the ACM logo. And you see the authorizer service right under it. And this appears to you as the author. It doesn't appear to anybody else who comes to look at your author page. It's just available to you once you've edited your page and you become its owner. And if you look here, you'll see that this article has the authorizer service has a check in it, which means it's already been authorized. This one is waiting to be authorized. Okay. Next. So when you click to authorize an article, what happens is that a box pops up asking you to paste your URL of your page where you want the free link to reside into this box, and you authorize the content, and a snippet of code is generated for you, which you just cut and paste into your page where you want this link to reside at your institution. Okay, next. So this is a picture of the homepage for Ron Boisvert, who happens to be our PubSport chair, where he's already used the authorizer. And you can see that these are ACM articles that have been authorized. And the links are there. The article citation has been put there by the snippet of code, as well as all the download statistics, which keep getting refreshed every time you go back to that page. And if you click on this, one very important thing about this is it enables the download activity that's going through author homepages to be recorded and tracked through our logs as downloads, part of our download statistics. And this has never happened before. This has always been a mystery. How much of the download traffic of your content is going on outside of your site that you know nothing about? You can't track it, you can't count it. So this actually gives us a way to do that. And I think that for the first time in a couple of years from now, we'll be able to get some sense of how much traffic is actually going through author homepage sites versus coming to our subscribed content directly. Next. So when a user clicks on one of those links from the author's homepage, they come to an ACM Digital Library interim page, which is there for 10 seconds. And we put it up there to ensure that some messaging actually goes to the end user, so that they're aware that the free copy that they're getting that they're about to download has been enabled by the collaboration of the author and ACM. Next. So after the 10-second delay, the article full text is delivered, and although we could adjust the time of that delay down because some people don't like it, I mean, it's just about enough time to take a look at the message. But the user has the option of clicking through immediately anyway. Next. So you can use this service to authorize all your ACM articles in bulk or one at a time. And if you move institutions, you can simply come in, deactivate all the links, and then reactivate them at the new page at your new institution. And I should mention, in case this question is going through anybody's mind, if academic search should come and crawl all these author pages and collect these links, they still work, but they don't work to bring you a free download. What they do is they work to point you to the citation page for the article, and you can then go in through the normal access controls that rule for that article. Okay, next. There's been very, very enthusiastic reception for this service. It really surprised us. And I would also mention that 99% of it is positively enthusiastic. There are very few who are sort of like cynical about it and see it as a sort of exploitative manipulation. But compared to the enthusiasm, the uptake is still very low. Since October, when it was released, there are about 1,400 authors who have come in and made use of it. And the result has been 12,000 downloads from those author homepages of free articles from our ACM Digital Library. So I think that we expect this to sort of increase because we're going to start sending out email notices to authors for each new publication, which will give them a link to their author homepage and invite them to come and authorize their article. So we'll see what happens. Next. I was going to show you a demo, but I think time is not. We'll right, let's just go over. Continue. Okay. So in talking about risks and benefits of exposing content, I remind you that I'm looking at them from a subscription revenue dependent point of view. So if you are not in that model, none of this probably applies. It's surely appearing in as many indexes as possible increases the visibility of your content, but only some of the referred traffic is in fact referred to our subscribed content. And when it does come to us, the value to us is very hard to assess because we do know that many turn away before they download anything. But we don't know if they would want it even if it were free. Because we don't know who these people are. We don't know what their interests are. We don't know the level of their computer science education. And once they come and take a good look at what's there in terms of the abstract, I mean, this is not for me. So, you know, they're coming from general consumer search indexes. Right? They're not coming from, you know, they're not necessarily computer scientists. We also know that many downloads from referred traffic are coming from our own subscribers. So they just happen to go to use a Microsoft search or a Google search to find the stuff, and then they're making the downloads. There are subscribers anyway, and what we don't know is whether if we weren't in those indexes, would they come to us directly. And then there are non-subscribers, which was really a very good reason to be in the index, hopefully to be found by non-subscribers who would then come and want to either become subscribers or just download that particular article on a pay-per-view basis. And the fact is that the pay-per-view activity is extremely low when you compare it to subscription revenue. And it's not something that we depend on at all. And if it went away, it would not kill us in any way. So, the best thing about advanced discovery services, I think, that are becoming destination sites in themselves, is that they really force us publishers into a competition to enhance our platforms and to try to distinguish our own offerings from what they give. And I think that the worst thing about it is not so much that they may be competitively very good and outdo us at times, but the worst thing is that their business models are so different that they foster the notion out there in the world that publishing is and ought to be free. And I think that is a very, very negative consequence for us about this. Okay. So last, a good reputation in the authoring community can't be overestimated, and so far ACM has done very well by exposing content and metadata freely, except, of course, among the gold open access hardliners. You cannot do anything except get rid of subscription. That will satisfy them. Our reputation is also good in the library community. Besides liking our low prices, I think they appreciate the option to locally host our metadata for federated indexing and our support for IR postings. And our authorizer service has been very well received. And so far, it has had no negative impact on subscriptions, but of course, it's very, very early days, and we're tracking it closely, and we'll see what happens. So, last slide. So, in a nutshell, does exposing your metadata and your content help you or hurt you? So, I think we're operating in an environment where our market is already shared between us and others, and that's a fact of life. And I think the jury is still out on how much this is helping or hurting publishers. But the storm clouds are gathering, and I would just end with asking the question whether we really do have any choice in this matter.
Thank you very much.